Hey everybody, it is Prince's Friend. We are back with the 5th review for Graffiti Bridge 2 weeks. This time we are talking about The Voice by Mavis Staples. Now this album was released in August of 1993, so a few years after, but it was her second album with Paisley Park Records. Most of the tracks on here are composed by Prince, but a few were composed by some of the other members of the MPG and some other musicians and writers and stuff that I can't say that I'm that familiar with. Overall, though, all of these tracks are pretty damn good, but you can tell where Prince had his hand in it and where he didn't, in my opinion. What I really like about this album specifically is that these tracks have a way of melding Mavis Staples' gospel feel with the funkier grooves that Prince had brought. I've always been a fan of her work, but I also did some research and she didn't really write any of these songs. She really is there just kind of as an instrument, though she is very strongly opinionated and she would never sing something that she did not believe in. I've seen many interviews with her and I definitely get that. This album actually had 2 singles, which was either The Voice and Blood is Thicker Than Time, but the album failed to chart anywhere, sadly. Kind of like the Jill Jones album. It was really awesome, but I really just don't think that it got the credit that it deserved. In 1995, this was actually re-released on MPG Records with a slightly different sequence of tracks and an additional track called Come Home, which was taken off of the previous album she had done with Paisley Park. But I'm doing this version that doesn't have Come Home, and I'm gonna go in this order. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the tracks.
Tap, tap, tapping on your window like a falling rain. Crying like a baby in a cradle, saying pick me up again. Mr. Politician goes.
So the album starts with a track written by both Prince and Rosie Gaines, and it really brings the house down right away. The lyrics talk about crime on the streets, corrupt politicians, police brutality, all that stuff that's still around today. In the end, you should unshackle yourself from this kind of life and instead listen to God's voice. Prince does a lot of the background singing on this track, and it mixes well with Mavis's voice. Such a great, refreshing start to this album.
I think you better get your house in order, get your shoes on straight. Your tears can run like water, but they're just a little too late.
So the phrase "get your house in order" was actually used in a few different Prince songs, so I'm glad to see that the concept got its own song eventually. I was expecting to hear a sample from 200 Balloons to end up in here, but it didn't. But House in Order actually starts off with a school bell, kind of like "School's in session, I'm about to teach you something," and it's got a really funky, kind of bluesy sound. It's about cleaning house after catching someone cheating on you or treating you wrong. The song has like so much energy, and the chorus is like a crazy breakdown. I really dig it. So much good on this track.
As sure as Moses parted the water, as sure as Kain't had to pay for his crime, sure as no one wants to be brokenhearted, that's how sure I am that blood is thicker than time.
So this is a sweet song about families sticking together regardless of the fights that they might have, and how every time you get back together, it's like you were never apart. Then it extends to the idea of humanity as a whole being a family and not just your direct relatives. Musically, I could hear this on any soft radio station, and I'm surprised that I don't, because it actually strikes a chord with me. I think it's really good, and I really do think that it should be played on those stations.
Surely when the rain comes, you will be moved. Line that down. See the video. You will be moved. You will be when the baby makes all.
Then we get right into the real gospel groove here, and it's a really relevant one too. This is actually the second song with a political stint. So this song is about a kid who's raised in a corrupt system and beat down every day, and how this is happening to all of our kids. Eventually, the people are gonna rise up. This song is like a warning. You will be moved. Things will change. And I think Mavis sings it with so much emotion. It's a real home run here.
I'm alive, and it's all because of you. You, all because of you, all the time.
So then we get to our first non-Prince track on the album, and this one was done by Billy Beck and Rick Brown. I like this song, but it definitely takes what was a really good momentum that was building and really kind of slows it down. Its message is great because it's all about the love within you that God gave is enough to get you through any hard time, and I think that that's really good. It gets really gospel-y near the end, and the choir really makes this song work.
Put away the guns for future's sake. Don't you be another number for the Undertaker. Mercy. Calling mercy.
And then this one is my favorite on the album, even though I have a couple of gripes with it. It's super funky and crazy, so it's not surprising that it was written by Michael B., Levi Caesar Jr., Prince, and Sonny T. It's a song about how guns do nothing but add to death, and the youth need to see more peace in the world. And there's so much violence and death that all it does is give the Undertaker more power, who they're kind of coloring kind of like a Grim Reaper. My only critique is actually that the song goes on longer than I think it should, but the combination of this powerhouse team of writers and the horns in the back, oh man, it's such a good song. I actually think that I prefer this version to the version that Prince sang, which that says a lot in my opinion.
At every funeral it rained, every time I sang melody cool. I haven't been here much longer.
So then we get Melody Cool carried over from Graffiti Bridge. It's not exactly the same track though. This was 3 years later, you have to remember. So the beat is slightly slicker. The keyboards in the background have been switched out for some real instruments. It's definitely a worthwhile remake of this song, and the bass line really becomes the star of this version.
It's my time to let you see just how bad you treated me. Maybe the love we had it just won't make two. I got my mind made up. Now I know that I can't swim back. It's gonna be hard for
So Kain't, Turnback was written by Bernard Bell and Raymond Watkins. It's got a pretty cool keyboard intro, and the bass line is really strong on this one too. The beat reminds me of a lot of the music out at the time, but it doesn't distract from how awesome the song itself is. The song is about having it up to here with the relationship that you're in, and basically making the decision that you can't go back to the way things were. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. So I'll Be Right There is an Emmanuel Raheem LeBlanc and Gordon Williams song, and this is Mavis Staples' version of basically Lean On Me. It's sung wonderfully in her lower raspy voice, and it's all about being there for your friend when they need help. The beat again seems a little dated. I think out of all of the tracks, this is probably the weakest of them, but I think that says a lot because this one's a really good track still.
I'm talking about the man called Jesus. Non-believers soon grew to hate. 'Cause when he rapped, he put
A Man Called Jesus is a wonderful mix of spirituality and music, as Prince and Mavis put together a rap about Jesus telling the story of his miracles. It has a thumping dance beat with a guitar that kind of sounds like a sitar, and some Batman-era sounding keyboards. Prince sings the background, and it's all together just really funky, crazy amazing track.
Why does the sound of rain falling make me feel like I wanna cry? It never seems to get easy
So Why was written by Mike Ferguson, Ivan Hampton, Danny Madden, and Paulette McWilliams. Notice that no track on here has more than 4 writers. 4 is usually my limit there. It's actually a really great ballad about asking God why there's so much hurting in the world. I think she sings it beautifully, though it does seem like it was a tad overproduced, but it's still good.
Positivity. Have you had your plus on a day? Positivity. Do we mark you present or do we mark you late? Is that all you know?
And then the finale of the album is Mavis Staples' cover of Positivity. Now, you all know from my Love Sexy review that I love this song. Listening to Mavis's version, I think it's a good album ender, being that the album actually is addressing the same political and social issues that this song spoke about years before it. It's obvious that she had to pull back slightly when she was singing this song, because you can't just let loose and make this song all crazy gospel-y too early. You kind of have to build up to it. But I think the music is great. It's kind of been updated, and I really like it. And I would have actually liked to have heard Prince's voice on top of this new updated version, but I guess we'll never hear that. Mavis made a few choices that kind of irked me on first listen, but I think it's just because I'm so used to the original. I think that this is actually a really great cover. I would be really hard-pressed to find anybody to cover this song better than she did, and I think it's a fine ending to this album. So, in conclusion... So putting this album on, I was kind of scared that I might not like what Mavis Staples actually is versus what I know her from Melody Cool. I've listened to a couple of tracks from Prince, but I hadn't ever actually listened to a full album. But the voice not only had a message, but it was expertly executed musically. Her voice was on point. I don't have really anything negative to say about this album, seriously. I think it's sad that it didn't chart when it was out, because it's definitely worth the listen, and I hope everybody out there goes and checks it out. There's a link in the description. Go check it out. It's a 5 out of 5 easy. So did you think that this album was Melody Cool, or should it be given to The Undertaker? Let's discuss it in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. May live to see the dawn.